I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Monday morning, this Tuesday morning, live on Fox35Orlando.com, Fox Local, and on YouTube. Can you tell I was up late last night watching the Gators, cheering them on in the national championship? You probably were too. It was a late night, but it was worth it because they came home with a win. Well, they're coming home with a win and a national championship. Give you a live look right now at the University of Florida in Gainesville. We know later this afternoon the team is expected to return. Around 1:30 is the time. I want to go ahead and let you know that we will be streaming that here. However you're watching us, we will have coverage of that this afternoon as the team makes their return to the UF campus to celebrate a national championship, their third national championship. So we're going to have a lot of coverage on that coming up, not just in this show, but later today as well. At 11:50, we are scheduled to speak with Congressman Maxwell Frost, joining us live from Washington, D.C., joining us via Zoom here as we talk about a couple of things. He has launched an investigation into what he says are conflicts of interest when it comes to Elon Musk and decisions over NASA. So we're going to talk with him about that. Also, talk with him about a UF student who has been detained by ICE and his concerns with that. Coming up later in the show, we are also going to continue to track the impact of tariffs. I will give you a live look right now at our stock market numbers here a couple of hours into the trading day, and you can see things are rebounding today. Analysts say they believe this is a reaction to signs that the U.S. could potentially strike some deals with trading partners, and so things are trading up today. First time in a while that we have seen this much sustained green on this. We've been keeping a close eye on this since last week when Trump announced those widespread tariffs. So something to keep an eye on and something we will continue to monitor throughout the day, but we'll have some more coverage coming up in just a little bit. But let's talk a little bit about the Florida Gators winning 65-63 last night over fellow one seed Houston in the national championship, played at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. I want to play for you a little bit of Todd Golden speaking to the reporters after that game with the net cut down around his neck. Let's go ahead and listen in.
It's a heck of an accomplishment. I'm super proud of everybody in my program, top to bottom. My staff, who's been together for 3 years, has worked incredibly hard to help get our players to this point. And our players, they've been the difference all the way along. Been incredibly consistent all year, have worked with a great work ethic, and obviously we have an incredibly talented group, one of the most talented groups individually in America. But I do think what separates us and what has separated us all season long is our team talent and the way our guys have played together and for each other all year. And because of that, we can call each other national champions for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, just trying to make plays to help us stay in the game, help us give ourselves the best chance to win. I mean, they were obviously guarding Walt and other guys pretty hard, but I feel like we did a great job of making simple reads. And, I mean, Walt had 7 assists, so even when they were guarding him so hard, I feel like he still made plays to help the team win. So just a good job by the team on staying aggressive throughout that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Houston was guarding us great. You know, they threw a great defense out there. Obviously, everyone knows them for that. But, man, we got multiple guys on this team that can go. And tonight was one of those nights for Will, man. He done showed it multiple times this year. You know, never know who night it's going to be, man. And we showed that as a team.
I feel like it just goes back to how connected we are as a team. I feel like we all we don't have any quitting. I feel like as long as there's time on the clock, we're going to give ourselves a good chance to win as long as we just stay the course, keep taking it possession by possession. So I just like our resiliency and how we fight through adversity throughout the game.
Yeah, I just think our grit down the stretch and, you know, how hard we played defensively. I think we got 9 stops towards the end of the game. So, yeah, it was just a team effort to get this win. It was crazy.
It just goes back to what we did all season. You know, every stretch down the moment that we've been through this year just prepared us for this moment, and we showed up, man. We never blinked, and we're national champs.
I agree with what they said. Yeah, nah, for sure. I seen a lot going on. Coach had said we felt like they was gonna try to get some for either Cryer or Roberts, and Sharp kind of creeped down to the baseline. I seen a back screen, so I'm yelling back screen at Doe, and then Sharp ended up slipping it. They tried to set like a little elevator screen, so just went out there. You know, we work on it in practice, kind of closing out, jumping to the side so you don't foul the shooter. So he kind of pump fake, threw the ball down, ended up being a good play. Doe got on it. We won the game, man. And the feeling just surreal. So it's a crazy feeling, man. I honestly can't even explain it, but it feels good, though.
You know, our guys have been really good all year, staying the course. And, you know, in this tournament, especially after the first round, every team you play is going to be really, really, really good. And you have to have the mental toughness to be able to withstand a little adversity. We played an incredible UConn team that was used to winning in the second round, had to get through that one. And obviously Texas Tech, great program, had to find a way to come back and beat them. And obviously Auburn, you know, the best team in America most of the year in the semifinals. So, you know, there's going to be times of adversity trying to fight back in those games. You know, those are all great teams. Obviously, Houston, just a class act, amazing program, Hall of Fame head coach, super, super tough student athletes. And our guys knew that it wasn't going to be easy and didn't panic when it got tough. And as Will talked about, you know, they did a great job of never getting too high, never getting too low. You know, when we went down 12 in the second half, we stayed the course. We didn't point fingers. We didn't try to start making hero plays. We didn't start gambling defensively, and we got rewarded because of that toughness that we displayed. You know, we've gotten a lot of credit for our offense because we've been so explosive all year and been one of, if not the top 2 offenses in America all year. But we've been a top 10 defense all year also, and we've been able to stand up against really good offensive teams and find a way to get stops. I thought Houston got the better of us in the first half, but it was really just a disparity in the turnover count. You know, we had 9. I think they had 2 in the first half. And as I look here, we had 4 in the second, and they had 7. And our defense won us the game tonight. We got 9 straight stops at one point in the middle of the second half. To your point, we held them scoreless the last 2:20. And Walter, great closeout, and Kondo, great hustle play to win the game. And that's what made this team special all year, is that we could win different ways, and we showed that again tonight.
They certainly did show that again last night. We also know the O'Connell Center was packed last night with fans at the watch party for the game. They stormed the court after the buzzer sounded and the Gators won. Fox 35's Jessica Ely was there and gives us a recap of the excitement inside the O-Dome.
It was an electric scene in Gainesville Monday night for the national championship game. Florida defeats Houston 65-63 to win their first national championship since 2007. We spoke to fans. They said there was never a doubt that the Gators could get it done.
I feel so happy right now. Let's go Gators! We had that in the bag!
Never had a doubt. I never had a doubt. At any point in the game, I had a feeling we were winning the entire time. I've been here for 4 years. My last year here, I graduated in less than a month, and we got it down!
The Gators were down by as many as 12 points. This is actually one of the largest comebacks in national championship history. In Gainesville, Jessica Ely, Fox 35 Sports.
It was quite the comeback, and so that's why one reason I think that guy who said he never had a doubt may have been fibbing just a little bit, because I definitely had doubts at some points, but it was a great comeback. And Governor Ron DeSantis chiming in on social media with this video congratulating the Gators.
The Gators have brought it home from San Antone and have won the national championship.
And then tweeting this, the long list of universities that have won 3 national championships in football and basketball, the only one being the University of Florida. So history in the making last night. And again, 1:30 this afternoon, that welcome home rally from the University of Florida campus in Gainesville. We will bring that to you live here on Fox Local, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube. We're going to start streaming at 1 o'clock and lead into our Florida Live show at 2 with that. So we're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Let me open my mic there and just say all that again. I was basically just welcoming you in and saying thanks for watching us here on Fox Local, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube. But tonight, the Brevard County School Board will discuss potentially shutting down a middle school in the county because of low attendance numbers. Fox 35's Marley Capper has the details on that proposal.
Good morning. The meeting is supposed to start at 5 p.m. tonight at the school board office in Viera. Now, it's not on the agenda, but it could come up in public comments. Low enrollment numbers could cause the district to close or merge some schools. The community here does not want to see the school they love shut down. Many parents say that the teachers are supportive and that the quality of education is great.
We're the challengers, we're family. So keeping it open and keeping it the same would be my idea.
The teachers, they give very much of a supportive foundation.
We have had so many kids come out of the school and go to Rockledge High School, and they're doing more things because of the teachers here.
The board is really calling on the community to come up with some potential solutions for McNair. Again, the meeting is tonight at 5 p.m., but nothing will be voted on. Reporting for Good Day Orlando, Marley Capper, Fox 35 News.
Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Jessica Dobson joins me now. And Jess, a little bit of a gloomy start out there today.
Yeah, it honestly feels kind of more like a Monday than it does like a Tuesday, but
yeah,
we are going to be seeing some much more comfortable temperatures as we head over the course of today and the next couple of days, so it'll be worth it. We do have a cold front, though, that's continuing to work its way further to the south and east, and it has helped to provide us with some scattered showers, a couple of downpours for us this morning. Not anything that's been too terribly consistent or constant, but we need the rain, so we'll take it. But really, it's most areas to the south and east of Orlando, south and east of the I-4 corridor that has seen most of the rain for us this morning. And that's really going to be where we expect the best chances of rain to take shape today. So most areas to the north and west of I-4, say the Villages, Leesburg, Claremont, Bushnell, Ocala, even into Gainesville. If you're maybe going to be heading up to Gainesville today in order to partake in any sort of celebrations, we are going to be expecting a much nicer day in Gainesville versus, say, the Orlando or Brevard County area. So you'll notice that higher chances of rain exist in Titusville to Cocoa Beach, about a 60% chance of rain there, and about a 40% chance, say, in the Orlando area. So again, not a washout, very hit and miss. We'll actually see a decent amount of dry time before the day is all said and done with, but we will see a couple more showers, kind of a reinforcing shots of moisture as the day continues to progress. You'll notice, though, that back edge of the cloud cover through about midday, we'll continue to see that take place and sink and work its way further to the south and east. And that is going to be as we dry things out. So the Gainesville area, Ocala, the Villages, even northwestern parts of, say, Orange County, we are going to be seeing conditions dry out quite a bit there. But as we get closer towards around 6 o'clock, we are going to see maybe a couple of sprinkles try to get going across Osceola and Brevard counties, and those could linger into parts of our Wednesday as well. So not going to be completely dry over the next few days, just a 20% chance of rain as we expect temperatures to be noticeably better feeling over the course of the rest of this week, really. No 90s in the forecast for the next several days either. Our average high is 82. We're actually going to be below that for much of the next week. The only exception being Friday, where we'll see temperatures bounce back to a high of 84 degrees. But after that, we'll see a cold front push through come Friday afternoon. Not going to bring us a ton of rain, but it will help to bring us some cooler temperatures, and it's going to be shaping up to be a really nice weekend. It's going to help to set the stage for beautiful weather both Saturday and Sunday. A high of 74, in fact, for Saturday, 79 for Sunday. Even our overnight lows and our morning low temperatures, you'll probably be able to really capitalize on that free AC outside because we'll be back down into the 50s and 60s. So if you can, maybe open up those windows for a little bit because it'll feel pretty nice just about each morning of the next several days. So when it comes to your 7-day forecast, we do have about a 20% chance of rain, not only for tomorrow, but also into Thursday and Friday. But again, it's not going to be a washout. It will help to keep a couple of clouds in and around the area. So it might be a little cloudier than what we might normally expect or what we have been seeing. But as we look ahead towards the weekend, again, dry, sunny, very comfortable, beautiful weather on the way as we head into the weekend. And we're likely going to be expecting temperatures to shy away and stay closer to the 70s and 80s versus the 90s for at least the next week or two with this pattern as we look ahead towards, the middle parts and late parts of April, at least at this point. So we've got a little taste of summer. It was a little preview, but now we're back to regularly scheduled program as we kind of ease our way more so into spring and summer here over the next couple of weeks and months. Garrett?
Yeah, that's more like it, because it seemed like we were 2 feet solidly in summer with those 90-degree temperatures. So nice to hear we're going to have something a little more pleasant for a little bit.
Yeah, even, Sunday morning, we could see temperatures down into the low 50s for some spots. So it's going to be certainly a lot more refreshing and brisk. So if it really did feel like there for a bit we weren't going to make it back into spring with the 90s that we had, but we are going to be back into the 80s and 70s, honestly, for the next couple of days too. So we'll take it. Not too bad.
Yeah, nothing to argue with there. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Jessica Dobson, we appreciate you joining us.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go to break here on Fox 35 News Plus, give you another live look at the campus of the University of Florida. You see Ben Hill Griffin Stadium there in the background as well, looking like a beautiful day there in Gainesville. We're going to take a break, and we will be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, live on Fox Local, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube. I want to give you another live look at the New York Stock Exchange. You see the numbers there right now, up 2.5%, close to that, at least the Dow Jones is. So things are looking a little better today than they have been, but we know it has been a rough week for the stock market since the president's announcement of these expanded tariffs against nearly all foreign goods, a baseline tariff, an additional tariff on a number of countries, allies and enemies alike. And so we've talked a lot about the impact of this. And just yesterday, just after the stock market closed, Fox 35 spoke with Dr. Victor Clark. He's an associate professor of economics at Florida Gulf Coast University. We had him on our show live here one day last week as well. We talked with him about the latest on the tariffs and what Americans can expect going forward. And I want to kind of take you through several of the things that he had to say. One of the things we asked about was the kind of volatility of the market, the reaction to every little piece of news when it comes to these tariffs. Like yesterday, we saw the headline on social media that President Trump was considering a 90-day pause on tariffs. Now, the reaction to that on the stock market was positive. And then we saw when the White House came out and denied that report, saying it was false, it was not true, things really tanked for the rest of the day. So we talked with Dr. Clark about that viral tweet and how it was able to upend the market for a period of time.
Markets react negatively to two things: bad news that's certain, and then uncertainty, whether the uncertainty is about things that might be good or things that might be bad. And what we've gotten, especially over the last 3 days, is a whole lot of uncertainty. You saw that this morning when the market opened. It continued to plummet. It was a continuation of what happened last week. And then there was this rumor that maybe there was going to be a 90-day pause on the tariffs that were announced last week. And then the White House on the record said, well, it is just a rumor. We're going to continue and move forward with the tariffs. Well, on the strength of that rumor, the price improved, stocks were up. But then once the White House said, no, it's just a rumor, tariffs are still on, then those prices went down again. And the Dow finished down overall today, even though the NASDAQ actually finished in positive territory, which is a little bit of a puzzle today.
And Dr. Clark also went into that a little bit further about the NASDAQ going positive and the Dow going negative. Here's what he said specifically about that yesterday.
It's important to remember that the mix of businesses that are traded in different exchanges, whether it's the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ, the mix of businesses is different. And historically, NASDAQ has been reserved for new startup companies, as well as a lot of technology firms. So it might be the case that buyers in the NASDAQ, because of their particular industries and businesses that are in the NASDAQ, they might be a little more optimistic at this moment because they feel like they know something about the nature of the tech business and those younger firms compared to the more established firms that one's likely to find in the New York Stock Exchange and the firms that are included in the Dow.
One of the other things we talked with him about was tech companies, because we know that a number of tech companies, according to reports, had basically moved their operations to Vietnam, trying to get around some of the expected higher tariffs against other countries like China. But what we saw is that Vietnam actually has a higher tariff rate than China does, according to what the White House kind of laid out. But where do things go from here? Because could they or will they try to change things again, move their operations, move their supply chains, find different ways to source things? And what Dr. Clark said is that it's difficult for companies to move and find new supply chains quickly.
As we know already from our experience during the pandemic, supply chains are far more complex than the average consumer could ever imagine. So many moving pieces, so many different sources, so many different countries of origin, not for the finished product, but also for every included element of every product that we just go to the store and buy when we go shopping. And it's a difficult thing for a multinational corporation to totally change what its web of networks for its supply chain look like in a very short amount of time. We know this from the pandemic. And in addition, because we don't yet know whether these tariffs will remain the same numbers that we saw next week, whether they will be reduced or maybe they'll be put on hiatus for a while, because nobody knows those things for sure. A lot of firms are taking a wait and see attitude rather than getting busy totally reconfiguring their entire supply chain because they don't know for sure whether they need to do that or not.
One of the other things that is kind of ongoing with this debate over tariffs is what's going to happen with China and whether additional tariffs could be added on the country. Dr. Clark says potentially more tariffs on China could end up causing stagflation. He walked us through that as well.
I think the thing that most American households need to be the most concerned about is a word that we really haven't used much in the U.S. since the 1970s, when we had double-digit unemployment rates, at the same time that we had double-digit inflation rates. And there's a name for that. It's called stagflation. It means that the economy is in a recession or stagnating. at the same time that prices are rising and rising at a rapid rate. If economists are even close when they suggest that tariffs are bad for consumers and businesses at home because they're a tax on economic activity and businesses at home, if you raise costs for American businesses, they may have to raise prices. And if you raise costs for American businesses, they might have to lay off some of the very Americans that they currently employ. So a very real possibility is that we might see both more inflation, just like we've seen since the pandemic, and in addition, maybe layoffs and a recession and a decline in GDP. And so we get two really bad things at the same time.
Now, when it comes to the effect of tariffs, Dr. Clark said there is really a trickle-down effect. It doesn't just stop at the level of the tariff itself and the higher prices passed on to consumers. There are other effects of that. And here's one example of what he says we might see.
And if you think about an import tariff on tires from China, let's use a number like 34%. Maybe that's the tax. It means that if you're Tire Choice or an American wholesaler of tires who sells to retailers, it means you now have to pay two bills. You have to pay the price of bringing in the tires from another country. Then you have to calculate 34% of that price and deliver that amount to Washington, D.C. Because a tariff, just to remind everybody, a tariff is a tax on American businesses that employ American workers and serve American customers. So when you make that American company that wants to bring in those tires to give their customers one more choice at a reasonable price, what it does is it drives up the cost for that supplier. And it also reduces the incentives for American manufacturers of tires to do what we like in competition, which is to keep costs low, keep prices low, and compete. If tariff policies are intended to tip the playing field a little bit and make it easier to compete because you don't have to be focused on the consumer and low costs and good prices and high quality products, when the smoke clears, there might be a few people who make tires in the US who are better off, but most Americans are worse off. We get more expensive tires, we replace them less often, and we probably have more car accidents because we were driving on tires we never should have been driving on because of the higher tire prices we face, whether those tires came from China, the US, or anywhere else. Motorists will probably put off replacing tires for longer than they would otherwise, and that puts their families at risk.
Now, when it comes to the stock market itself, obviously things have been down, things up, rebounding a little bit today, at least so far. It can be tempting not to want to look at it, being concerned about maybe your 401k, your investments, those kinds of things. But Dr. Clark also said your stocks are only a loss if you are to sell right now.
Every financial advisor will tell you the same thing I'm going to say. Unless you sell, even when the market is down, unless you sell, you don't incur a loss. You still own the same piece of a company you owned 7 days ago. And the only way you incur a loss is if you actually sell that piece of a company that now sells for less than it did before. So it isn't time to panic if you're an investor or even if you're closer to your retirement. What you own hasn't changed at all. All that's happened is the market is suggesting that it's worth less than it was last week, but don't assume that that is going to be persistent or inevitable.
And already seeing some positive signs today, so we will see where things go from here. We are going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning. We are going to speak shortly with Congressman Maxwell Frost, a Democrat from Florida's 10th District in Orlando, who, along with another fellow ranking member, Gerald Connolly of Virginia, on a subcommittee on economic growth, energy policy, and regulatory affairs, they have launched an investigation into Elon Musk and what they say are conflicts of interest when it comes to NASA, when it comes to decisions that have to do with that. We know Musk has been at the center of a number of efforts when it comes to Doge, when it comes to space things, just a number of different things. And we're going to talk with Congressman Frost about all of that. In the meantime, though, I want to go ahead and get us inside a Doge hearing going on right now on Capitol Hill. This is a House Doge Committee field hearing about the federal real estate portfolio and reducing the federal real estate portfolio. So let's go ahead and listen in for a couple of minutes here as this hearing continues.
Neighborhoods, we had some of it was obviously undevelopable. So one was on the corner of a small airport. But it was all over. We had something listed as a park, and it was nothing further from a park. And we ended up selling a lot of this property, and we paid cash for schools, crazy things like that. We didn't stay in debt. And to me, that just seems like the model that the federal government should adopt. We should have a listing of the property, and the people ought to be able to review that and make better assumptions, because I think they're a lot more smarter than we give them credit for, and I suspect that's part of the problem. They don't want to let them look behind the curtain, so to speak. Would you agree with that?
It is important to have that kind of data. There is an inventory that's available online, but there are significant issues with its reliability.
Mr. Hart, would you care to address that?
We would like to enhance the transparency of all of that data. I think it's one of the most important assets that taxpayers should be able to review the cost so that they can make good decisions. And again, the purpose of transparency is to empower taxpayers. Transparency is not a two-way street. The government does not have the right to inspect our checkbook. Taxpayers do have the right to inspect the government's checkbook because it's their money.
Mr. Kendall, would you care to offer your...
I'm all in favor of transparency. No objection.
It seems our friends in the media always strive for that, and then and we get pretty gutless up here. So I would hope in the future we would address that. So I'll yield my 49 seconds back to you, Chair Lady. Thank you for your indulgence, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. In closing, I want to thank our witnesses once again for their testimony today. I now yield to Ranking Member Stansbury for closing remarks.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman. I hope that in some ways this hearing has been elucidating, but I'm going to be honest, just listening here today, I've had trouble understanding the theory of the case. Now, anyone who's in business knows that if you're going to go in front of a boardroom and present your case, you've got to have compelling data, you've got to have an analysis of what you're trying to accomplish, you've got to have an analysis of the money that you're going to save, and a proposal and a plan for how you're going to execute that. And I think the thing that is troubling about the entire Doge exercise is that it doesn't seem to have a coherent theory. It doesn't appear to have a plan. It doesn't appear to be utilizing data. And it doesn't appear to be executing on any kind of coherent theory of how we're saving money for the federal government, because as we learned here today, it will actually cost the federal government more money if they sell these vital assets to private companies who will then lease them back to federal agencies for more money. So it's troubling to try to understand, and I think it kind of goes along with the troubling theory of the case that Donald Trump seems to have about the economy overall, because as my colleague pointed out, we're sitting here talking about microphones and furniture in an office building while the economy is tanking and trillions of dollars in losses are happening, and we know that the potential for both a recession and costs are going to go up, which will cost the federal government more money. So what's the theory of the case here? I've also heard conflicting theories just about this very building that we're sitting in. Is this building too fancy, or does this building need to be demolished to make way for housing? It's not even clear what the argument is for this building that we're sitting in, having this field hearing in.
So that was a House Doge Committee field hearing as they discussed the federal real estate portfolio. So it's something we are keeping an eye on there on Capitol Hill. Joining us live now from Capitol Hill is Congressman Maxwell Frost, Florida's 10th District. And Congressman Frost, we appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So I want to get your take here, because I know you launched an investigation into what you say are conflicts of interest when it comes to Elon Musk and NASA. If you could just kind of walk us through this letter that you sent and what you're asking for, why you think this is something that needs to look into.
Well, right now in the federal government, we have ethics laws and requirements that ensure that people who have a conflict of interest with certain government agencies are not involved in the disbursement of money, taxpayer money, to different companies, third-party vendors, corporations, and contractors. The big issue here is, of course, Elon Musk is running Doge, and Doge has its tentacles in the entire federal government, completely deciding who's getting money and who's not getting money. And the problem here is Elon Musk receives billions and billions of dollars to date, about over $38 billion from collaborations with NASA through SpaceX and some of his other companies as well. There's zero transparency. The president has said, well, the transparency you have is that you have to trust us. And Elon Musk says the transparency is, I'm going to post on X what we're finding. That's not enough. I'm not going to trust this unelected billionaire to tell us if he actually has a conflict of interest. And so we are beginning this investigation with NASA to ensure that taxpayer money is not being abused and used in the right way.
And so what are you hoping to learn from this?
A couple things. First off, we need to uncover currently what's going on in terms of NASA contracts as it relates to Elon Musk. We also want to know if he's been involved, if Doge has been involved in any current contracts, disbursement of money, ending contracts, or changing contract vendors. We actually already saw this with an FAA contract that was supposed to go towards Verizon that ended up being canceled and was given to Starlink instead. And so this should be a big concern for everyone. And we want to ensure that there's equity within this with NASA and that we don't have a conflict of interest that is resulting in the waste, fraud, and abuse of taxpayer money.
Just kind of talk us through this process here, because I know you did send a letter requesting documents and information from NASA. Just kind of walk us through the next steps here and what people can expect.
The way we begin these investigations is we always send a letter. I joined with the ranking Democrat on the Oversight Committee, Jerry Connolly, but I'm also a member of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. So in both of my committees, NASA is a place that we do a lot of work in. And so the first thing we do is we send the letter over requesting documentation and requesting information, and we give a deadline for that information. The deadline we gave is at the end of April. Once we get that information, which I expect we have a great relationship with NASA, I expect we'll get that information. We will then take it with our staff and our teams, analyze it, look at it, and then we'll go from there. We'll probably end up requesting some hearings on this depending on what we get back, but we really have to see what NASA gives us first before we take any further steps.
Do you expect pushback from Musk or from the president when it comes to this?
Yes, because Elon Musk doesn't want any transparency. And I think it's interesting to me because they ran this presidential campaign talking about transparency, talking about everything being out in the open. Nothing is out in the open. The federal government has the least transparency it's had in generations because everything is being held within Doge. And I don't trust Doge to be telling us everything they're doing. It's already been proven that the Doge website, they've had to make many, many edits because they keep claiming they've saved money on certain things, but they haven't. And they've straight up lied on some of this stuff and have misled the public. I'm a member of the Oversight Committee. Our committee, Democrats and Republicans, our job is to provide oversight over the entire federal government and report back to the people what's going on. We don't have that ability right now to the fullest extent of the law because of the Trump administration and Elon Musk are not giving us information, blocking information. The first thing they did when Trump got into office is fire 18 attorneys general. These are the people tasked with being independent watchdogs and ensuring that taxpayer money is used in the right way. It should alarm everybody. And he fired them illegally, by the way. There's a law that says he has to give Congress a 30-day notice so Congress has input. He did not do that. And because this Republican Congress they're just lapdogs for Trump, no one said anything about him blatantly breaking the law. So, my plea here to people is whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green, I don't care what your party is, this should concern you that there is absolutely no transparency with what's going on in terms of Doge. So this is one aspect of a greater effort to usher in transparency on this administration. But obviously, NASA's right in our backyard. A lot of Central Floridians work at NASA, and our taxpayer money is going there. We want to make sure it's being used in the right way and that there's no conflict of interest.
Congressman, I also want to ask you about this statement you put out with some a pretty strongly worded statement here about this University of Florida student who we know has been detained by ICE, and you call this a government-funded kidnapping program.
It is, and we're seeing it happen across the country. Another huge source of hypocrisy and contradiction. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, they were running this campaign talking about freedom of speech, and again, whether you agree with their speech or not, people who have legal permanent residence in this country, people who have a legal status in this country, are also covered under the First Amendment. The Constitution doesn't have, it doesn't say at the beginning, this only applies to citizens. The Constitution applies to people in our country. That is what makes America, by the way, exceptional. That's American exceptionalism, is the United States Constitution and the fact that we have done this project of democracy the longest of any civilization in humanity's history. And part of that is the fact that we have rights. We have constitutional rights. Every person has it. And so we've seen legal permanent residents, people with legal statuses being kidnapped in the middle of the night, in some cases in broad daylight by ICE agents, whisked away from their families, a lot of them being students, put in ICE detention facilities, and no one has heard of them for days or weeks. Sorry, that's our voting clock going on. And so everybody should be very concerned about this. The other thing people should be concerned about is the fact that they are shipping some of these folks to foreign prisons in other countries. This is some of the most un-American things we've seen in generations from a U.S. presidency. And obviously the latest case is this student from UF, which by all reports is the first student to have been detained by ICE. This guy was driving. He had an expired license plate, which happens sometimes. And usually you get a ticket and then you get it figured out. He was arrested. He paid it. He was arrested, given a fine, but instead of just being let back out to go deal with this, they turned the student over to ICE. And the problem here is this guy is here on a visa. He's in the process of renewing his visa. He's a student. He doesn't have a criminal record. His family hasn't heard from him in days. He's apparently in the ICE facility in South Florida, and we want answers. And so that's why we put out that letter. We're hoping we'll get answers from the administration soon on this.
Is this something that you think? I know you said you hope to hold the administration accountable when it comes to these efforts and these similar sorts of actions. What sort of action do you expect to or hope to take to do that? What sort of steps?
We're still discussing and seeing what makes sense, but we'll probably very soon be requesting a lot of information from the administration with a very tight deadline, because this student is in an ICE detention facility right now. And I don't, for people who haven't been in these facilities, I actually went into the Baker facility, which is around Stark, Florida, and horrible conditions. And these are, for people who don't know, these detention facilities are not for people who have been convicted of a crime. These are for people who are currently going through a deportation process or having deportation hearings and different things like that, and they're being detained at the same time. But I'll tell you that in many cases, these conditions are worse than prison. Yep, worse than prison. I spoke with many ICE detainees, some of them who in the past had served time, who had told me, listen, I'd rather be in prison than be in this detention facility. And part of it is to break the spirit of these folks so that way they self-deport themselves. And it's horrible. It's un-American. And the fact that this is happening to students across the country, a student that's at UF, people are talking about UF winning the game. That's all fine and dandy. But the real news about UF right now is the fact that a student was essentially handed over to ICE, shipped off to the other end of the state. The family doesn't know where he is, and this should concern everybody.
Last thing, Congressman, before I let you go, I just want to get your reaction to the tariffs and the impact that we have seen in the few days since the president made the announcement of those sweeping tariffs going into effect.
Yes, like everything else Trump touches and does, I mean, this is chaotic and it's reckless. And I've been running into people and seeing people speak online that even voted for Trump that are pissed off right now. The president, look, tariffs are a tool that can be used, but these aren't normal, sensible tariffs. These are Trump tariffs. Unlike every other Trump this, Trump that, it's a complete failure. We're seeing the markets completely crash. Many people are, and I hope this doesn't happen, but many are predicting that we could enter a recession very soon. Some CEOs are already saying they consider this a kind of a pre-recession. And we don't have to be in this situation. When the president, I remember telling people when Trump won, he's inheriting a growing economy, which he was. The economy was growing, was getting a lot better due to the policies of Joe Biden. And I said 6 months into the Trump administration, he's going to take credit for this growing economy. And the guy is so incompetent that he took the growing economy and completely shifted it around. Prices are higher than they've ever been. We see eggs have higher prices than they've ever been. The stock market is in a complete downfall. Why do working people care about the stock market? So many people look at people's 401ks that are just completely being decimated right now. And so we're in a tough situation. And you even have Republican members of Congress now and Republicans in the Senate coming out saying we need to rein in the president on this. And the fact of the matter is the Constitution says it is the right and responsibility of Congress to regulate commerce internationally, not the president. Congress. And so we need to assert our authority a little bit here. The president is using emergency powers to do all these tariffs. And no one in his administration knows what's going on. Half of them are saying he's doing this to negotiate with people. But then he came out, I think this morning or last night, and posted on Truth Social that there's no pause, that there's no negotiation. And so who knows what's going on, but it's harming people. And this is going to raise prices. Everything you can think of, from food to gas, housing. This is detrimental for working people.
All right, Congressman Maxwell Frost from Florida's 10th District. We appreciate you joining us from Capitol Hill this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thanks for having me on.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
A live look at the University of Florida campus in Gainesville on this beautiful Tuesday morning, where we expect here in just a little bit, a couple of hours away from the return of the men's basketball team as national champions. We will, of course, bring that to you live. 65-63, the final score last night. Florida over Houston to cap off a tournament that saw 4 1 seeds make the Final Four. That's not something that happens very often, but experts say that this could be something maybe that we see more and more as an impact of NIL on college basketball and the NCAA tournament, because it's becoming more difficult for some of these Cinderella teams, these mid-market or mid-major teams rather, to make a run with the amount of money that the larger schools can throw at top players. And so Matt DeFebo, who is the director of sports business and also an assistant professor of practice at Stetson University's School of Business Administration, was on Good Day Orlando this morning, and they talked about this changing and new dynamic when it comes to the tournament.
Let's start with Florida. They've got a strong NIL program. What role do you think that played in getting them to the title and winning last night?
Yeah, well, first of all, as a Florida alum, it's been a great thing to watch last night and celebrate this morning. So very proud Florida alum to be able to celebrate with them. Listen, NIL has played a part the last several years in a big way. And the conference, the SEC as conference, very intentionally came out and said, we are going to compete in basketball, and you're seeing that this season. They had 14 teams in the tournament. That's a record for a conference to have that many teams in the tournament.
Yeah, it's a great point. Half the Final Four. We're early in this NIL process, the portal process. As you know, it can hurt teams, it can help teams. What trends have we seen? If we point to this year, clearly we didn't have that big Cinderella.
Yeah, there was no Cinderella this year. It was an outstanding tournament as far as competition goes, but typically we're used to seeing these 11 seeds or lower make some noise in the early rounds of the tournament and generate some excitement. But what we think is happening is a lot of these players with the transfer portal and the attraction of NIL money, they're just not staying around long. So in the past, you may have had some of these lower seeded teams that were playing together for 3 or 4 years and had some continuity and some experience playing together. And that set up nicely for them to make some upsets in the tournament. But now with the transfer portal, just the transfer portal opened just a week or two ago, and there were over 1,300 Division I basketball players in it within the first few days.
Yeah, and you know what? You love it for the player, you hate it for the sport. And let's go to your backyard. Stetson made the tournament last year. The Hatters were in. So what happens? The best player leaves. They don't make it back. So what do you do if you're a smaller school? The Steph Curry days are probably over because somebody was snatched him out of Davidson years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And it created a lot of buzz around campus last season. And of course, we have Donnie Jones, who's part of the pedigree of what's happening at Florida today. So we're very proud of that. But, you know, it's only going to get harder with the House settlement decision that was expected yesterday, or at least approval. That looks like it's going to linger on another week or two. There's some things in that that are really going to bolster these power programs with the ability to pay players in addition to NIL money that will come in. The settlement is the amount that they're talking about is schools will have the ability to spend $20 million plus to pay players, which is really turning it from that amateurism model into a professional model. But it's really going to benefit the power conferences.
Yeah, Matt, and obviously it is great for the players because they deserved a part of this for years. But I think the majority of Americans don't like the way sports are in college right now with the NIL. Do you see either the NCAA or maybe even at the federal level, Congress getting involved here?
Well, I think ultimately it's going to come to that. So the settlement is going to get approved. I think all athletic departments are preparing for that, really, again, within a matter of days or weeks. Inevitably, that's going to lead to challenges on any number of fronts, from gender to Title IX type issues to roster limits and so on. So I think although it's a huge historic step in college athletics, I still believe we're going to see a number of challenges in the aftermath.
Well, Matt, great insight. Next time, we're just going to do a story on your sports memorabilia behind you, because you got a pretty good display back there as well.
Every one of them has a story, too. I appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you very much for having me.
I'm sure they got great stories. Good to have you with us, Matt.
So that is going to do it for us here on Fox 35 News Plus. Give you one last look here this morning as we get ready to head into the afternoon in Gainesville. You see Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. And we wait for the return of the Florida Gators. Around 1:30, expected to be back in town. Expect to hear from Todd Golden, the UF head basketball coach as well. We will bring that to you live here on Fox Local, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube. Amy Kauffeld's going to join me for that at 1. We will have Brandon Kravitz from 96.9 FM The Game joining us around 1:15. Fox 35's Jessica Ely going to be on the scene there at UF. So a lot to come here on Fox Local. So keep it right here. We appreciate you joining us.